Ernesto, welcome to Paris.
Hello, thank you for having me. What can I say? It's very nice to be here at SUPERFLY Records.
Thank you. Can you introduce yourself for the people who don't know you?
How can I do this usually? What do you say? You say, my name is Ernesto Chahoud and I'm a DJ, a compiler, and a radio presenter.
Where you from?
I'm from Beirut, yes, of course.
You're from Beirut?
Yeah.
And do you still live in Beirut or you're living outside?
No, the thing is, I always, now you don't know where you live because with the whole thing, but I'm always been in Beirut. I live in Beirut, I'm from Beirut. It's just now, this is maybe the longest period of time I spent in Europe because of the COVID. Whatever you call it, virus, corona, I don't know.
So, Ernesto, what is your musical background?
I mean, musical background, like as what? As when I was a kid, I mean, at home, or I mean, it's not really musical background in that sense, that fancy or anything, but just I come from a very a proper working class family. In my family, they were all militant in the Communist Party, mother, father, so full of, gunned communists, they fighting in the war, which was nice. I mean, this was my neighborhood, my childhood, but also the music was part of all of this, how you call it, like engaged music, political music mainly. So Lebanese political music, which was like, now they're becoming very popular these days around the world, like Ziyad, Khalid Labar, Ziyad Rahbani, Marcel Khalife, Sheikh Imam from Egypt, a lot of groups. So this was mainly, and a lot of Iraqi groups, like Firqat Tariq. Now they have this very famous record became that by Ja'far Hassan, who was the leader of this. I saw them live when I was a kid. So this kind of music that was politicized, and I was in touch with all of these people. I mean, like Ziyad, Rahbani, and Khalid. This was part of, plus the whole, but it was not like my fathers, they were collectors or so. It was mainly tapes, cassette, because we were always on the move, so no record collection, nothing. So, and you'll hear, you also Fairuz, Kulsum, all this, and they were also part of my childhood. Ziyad Rahbani used to be at my father's when I was 5 years, seeing him at home, and Khalid Labar, all these people. So this was sort of my, but I was not like, oh, this is the music you should listen or not listen. So if you want to say as like a background music or music that's happening all the time, especially also my father liked to drink and full of friends all the time, so they drink and play this kind of music. And also because I was born in this communist family, so I was listening to this music as part of the ideology, you know what I mean? So for us, it was more the message and not more than the music. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years, so you don't understand music. But this, if you wanna see the thing, this, it helped me after to understand, have a, what you call it, how can you say, like open to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
Because when I was 16, 17 or 14, something like this, then I started listening to other political music, like American political music, or mainly like Bob Dylan or this folk or things.
So you moved from Arabic music?
Not moved, I mean,
involved.
Not involved. What do you mean involved? Like, what is a political party? It's like, because, I felt when you're 16, 14, 15, 16, you discover, drinking, having friends, and you know what I mean? And then all this sort of rebellion background I'm coming from. Yeah, it led, maybe, this is Bob Dylan, you say, he's used to be communist, this is communist, this kind of things. And this, when I was listening to this music, then I was more involved in, if you want to say, in looking harder for this. So if I listen to an artist and I like, and I go find all of their records and I listen, then you start having this whole taste, how you call it, your taste start forming. So you think, because when you're naive, you think, this record is good. Then you go buy any record you find by the same artist, then you say, this is very bad, this is very bad, this is good, this is very bad, and then you start, you know what I mean? the taste of music. And this, basically, at that age, I was very much starting getting involved in, like, not involved, I was rhythm and blues, sort of, you know, like John Mayall, things like this. When you're a kid, it's very nice to hear this. I was attracted to this kind of sound. And then a friend of mine introduced me, was a Norwegian diplomat, introduced me to John Coltrane. He was a friend of my dad, so he gave me all of John Coltrane, like a gift. And then I was, I think, I don't know, 15. And I was starting digging jazz properly for years and years and years, you know. That's when I started later at the age of 19, starting doing more, like, involved in producing things, like getting in touch with artists like Ryo Kawasaki, for example. I did 3 tours for him. One of them is out on CD, actually. Find it there, live in Beirut or things. Kawasaki, what's his also was a good friend. Also, as I said, like before, Melvin Sparks. I don't know, busy. But anyway, you discover, like, oh, this doesn't make money. You lose all your money you're making from DJing, and this you lose it on. So we stopped it.
Was it easy to find records in
very easy, very
Lebanon,
easy.
but before the civil war and after?
Very easy, of course.
Yeah. In both periods?
No, it was not a civil war. Forget. The thing is, before the civil war, you had all these plants.
In Lebanon?
Yeah, of course.
With a classic, like classic labels, like
no,
Voice of Lebanon and...
No, this is Voice of Lebanon, Voix de l'Orient, or Voice of Lebanon. They're 2 different labels. But these are not, they didn't do international music. You have the...
Or local.
Yeah, you have the Voix de l'Orient or whatever, all the Lebanese labels. From big to small to medium, they were producing local stuff. But then you had the plants like...
Parlophone?
No, Parlophone was part of Voix de l'Orient. That's a different thing. Yeah, so they had franchise, but it was Parlophone Lebanon or Moyen-Orient, which was they doing local stuff. But you had plants like SLD, Société Libanaise de Disques, which is starting from like early before the Civil War. And they were just pressing Lebanese issues for... international. So you had Philips, you had this, and that's why you find a lot of obscure artists that they were never pressed but in Lebanon, or some singles, because they used most probably to have a deal. In order to have this, you need to have all of this, so they start putting out. And plus the scene was very vivid, so you have a lot of demand for singles and things like this. So you find a lot of obscure international releases also on Vertigo and things like this, that they were pressed in Lebanon with multicolor, things like this. Even the Ethiopian stuff, a lot of them, they were pressed in Lebanon. So there was a pressing plants, and they were, and there was a scene. And other than the mainstream Arabic, so there was like also Western or even Lebanese artists that they did sang in French or in English, and they did some obscure stuff. So when I started getting into like collecting, buying, what you call it?
Records?
Vinyls? Yeah, vinyl. CD was not there yet, so it was in just
80s.
Arriving. No, not 80s also. I mean, I'm saying like early 90s. You know what I mean? 1990, 1991, it was the reconstruction. So, and the CD was not arriving there. So you have all this record store. But it was just arriving. And then when I started really properly collecting things or buying a lot, all my money goes on records. So I used to go to the flea market, and the flea market back then I was maybe the only...
Digger.
Not digger. Nobody used to go to the flea market. Only like people who are, how you call it, they don't have money, or some people they're working, migrant workers or things like this. So it is looked down at the flea market, So when I went to buy old stuff or used things that nobody buys, the people throw basically.
Yeah.
So when I started going, and it was the coming of the CD arriving, and saw a lot of people moving houses and things, so they will throw it, and you will go. For years, I was going, finding crazy stuff.
So that's when you get the most of your records?
Most of my records came basically, most of my records came from this.
Okay.
And then started all these people starting coming. Now in Beirut you can't find it. For the last 10 years, it is impossible to find anything. Everybody is fucking dealing. It is stupid, and especially now they know you are you don't. I'm grilled, or burned. I can't buy any record in Beirut. I can't. It's impossible. Telling you for me it's always triple the price. But anyway, I bought as much as I can. But there was one nice story when the whole thing starting, and then everybody starting dealing at the beginning of it, and it was not as bad as now. So I said, let's go now. Free market for me is difficult. I should also do the private thing. I know all the record stores that they were still existing or closing. So I will go ask people, do you know someone else? There's one guy told me, yeah, I know this guy, but he's a bit crazy. His name is Shukri. You should go see him. I said, what does he do? He said, he used to supply the jukeboxes back in the days before the war. They used to have a jukebox. If he supplies you the jukebox, the guy who supplies you the jukebox has to bring
the records,
and he has to change it every month back before. So that's it. I said, really, let me go see him. He said, yeah, but he doesn't receive anybody. Just go tell him I sent you. And then I went to see him, and it was in the suburbs, Armenian suburbs. It's still not gentrified, but hard. And then I see him, and every time I passed by him for years and years and years, and I didn't know that this guy had anything there. So it's just one guy sitting on an office with his, flannel, like wife beater. And he looked like he had a rough life of, cocaine and things like he's known, for example, maybe he had, And then I went in and I said, this guy, etc., sent me. And then I want to see records. I said, what do you want, Arabic or foreign records? I said, it doesn't matter, I want to see. What do you have? He said, yeah, but I looked. I said, this room, there is not one single record. There's nothing, just an office and himself. He said, come with me. And then we had to go up in the attic, and then you go down again to the store next to him. And then I saw he had a shrine for, I don't know, maybe it's like a Freemason or something. Very weird. And it looks cool, but where's this guy taking me? And then I go down, and he has all these doors from, the old, metal drawers for the 45s, from the wall down everywhere, double the size of this room. And they're all full of 45s, and they're all basically from 50s, 60s, early 70s, and this is the period of the most interesting period for me. And then jukeboxes. I spent maybe 2 years looking there. And then you find a lot of things, but not much compared to the amount of but this was nice.
Were you listening one by one?
You couldn't listen anything. They were listening. The guy, he just, anyway, and he will come every half an hour till you're done. I said, done. He's busy, he's and he was thinking, this guy is every time I buy, he was thinking, this guy is weird, but he was happy because he was making money out of this. And he forgot about them, but the thing about him, I asked him, why you're having all this? He said he wanted to sell them all. He was for 20 years, he was waiting for someone to come buy the jukeboxes or something like this. But all of a sudden, you are back in the days, and you will see the most interesting thing, not the records I found, but to see the hits that they were listening to people back then in Beirut in the clubs, because this is the jukebox, which is incredible. You're traveling in time every time looking at these records. And you see, wow, this looked like really happening scene back in the days, you know what I mean? It's crazy. You find a lot of singles, for example, pressed in Lebanon for James Brown, everything, and multicolored and everything. So, and of course he was popular everywhere in the world. But for example, you find also, this was one really interesting thing. You notice that in Lebanon, for example, what's his name? Eddie Holman. He has the I Love You. On the B-side, yes, I Surrender, which is not on the album. So this became big, sort of popular in the scene in the UK up north because of the I Surrender. and it was only pressed in the UK and America and in Lebanon. But the thing is, in Lebanon, they pressed it not because of I Surrender, they pressed it because I Love You, which is a sweet, sweet soul record, and it's an incredible record, I mean. And then you listen, how come? And I used to find a lot of these ones, and they go for not much, I mean, maybe back then, maybe 100, now they go for 50. But I mean, you wouldn't imagine how come this record had such a popularity, you know what I mean, among like clubs in Lebanon, which is incredible, you know what I mean? It's very weird. So you find all this, I mean, you travel in time and in sound when you're looking in proper jukeboxes, warehouses, because that's what the people basically wanted, or what was coming in the time, which was interesting, experience, you know what I mean? But it's not as interesting as other experiences, but it was like pleasant, how can I say? It's not the most important thing. You know what I mean?
Is any like more dealers you know in Beirut or outside Beirut you've been to and see like big collections?
I did also in Beirut. They did the SLD thing, the Société Libanaise de Disques. There's the guy, manager of it, who had all the back catalog. Yeah, it was crazy thing. Yeah, you find all this. Abu Ali, you find 10, 15 or it's like, now it became very popular. When I used to play it in the club in Lebanon, I mean, this record is sort of popular in Lebanon, but not very popular compared to the other stuff that Ziad did, because Ziad is massive in Lebanon. It's very, very, very famous. Now here people, they think it's not, but it's very, very famous. So, and this record, it's the least known by him because the whole story around it. I mean, the bankrupt of the label and things like this, and cost them a lot of money. Anyway, but yeah, so we used to play it, you know, in the club, and you find it. You used to find it, and not as often as the others, but you used to find it. And then all of a sudden, like the last 5 years, it's like $700, $600. It's incredible. It's crazy. It is an incredible record, actually.
It is.
Yeah, we're doing, because we did also a story around it. We're doing Natalie Shooter, you know, my girlfriend, she's a journalist. So we wrote a chapter about Lebanese music scene from back in the days. It's gonna be published in a book about international scenes from back the days. I did a story about it. It's an incredible story. It's crazy. So it is the story around it also makes it, but also the sound. That's the thing. This record was intended to be addressed to the international people.
So not really for Lebanon scene.
The idea of it was they wanted to put this record, and there was some guy in Universal America trying to push it for the international scene. So that's why it's also very appealing for. But it didn't work. I mean, the whole thing collapsed back at the time. So it was intended to be part of this sound of that day, 70s or late 70s, which is sort of disco jazz funk thing, and they clashed. Because, I mean, you can see the story, we wrote about it, because we had a long interview.
Why do you think this record didn't have the success?
I mean, many, it's not what I think, this is what we know from Ziad, and it's many things. First of all, when they did it, it cost them a lot of money when they were producing, because they recorded it with the big orchestra in Greece, full orchestra, you can hear the strings, everything. And then it took them, they spent all the money on it. The producer, what's his name? Not Diran's son. Khachik, who was the owner of the label Zida. They did only 10 records, or I don't know, 10 maybe. He took all the money that he has and spent it on the records. So by the time they finished, when they sent it, then they told them it's too long, they needed to do 7 radio edit. They couldn't. But I think, if you want my opinion, I think it's, first of all, you're talking 78. Huh? It's a record with a desert called Abu Ali. Second is like coming from an artist in Lebanon. I mean, still till now, it's very Eurocentrist, everything. If there's someone who's European is more welcome, then no, this is the fact. and with labels, with everything. Now it's changing a little bit from an exotic point of view, but so it didn't work because of all of these factors. And plus it was too long, they needed to promote, so it was too early, I don't know what was it. But it's a shame it didn't work back then, because it could have been a big hit if it had the chance. You know what I mean? Because it's very similar to, and as good as a lot of records back in the days. Now it's gaining some, how we call it, popularity, which is good. But there's a lot of records like this. I mean, this is not a unique thing. I don't want to spend my time talking about this record. But yeah, of course, I mean, Lebanon, so to say this, Lebanon, it was always had a scene, you know what I mean? And experimental scene. In that way, experimental, not in a way as a free jazz or, you know, as experimental as they always tried to fuse things and experiment. I have a lot of obscure records from the 60s. You don't know alias people. They're doing like sort of garage or beat or mod. Or, I mean, the Cedars was one of the most famous bands that they signed with Decca back in days in 66. Decca that year refused to sign the Beatles. They signed Rolling Stones and they signed the Cedars, which is, you know what I mean? So it was always, this is pre-war, it was always like this. And during the war, so also people were involved. So there is a rich, so you find records, you find music, you find local interesting records, yes, of course. There's a rich blend.
What was the transition when you used to listen to records in your home?
Yeah.
With the musical background of your family, and after when you start to choose your own records and to move to be more curious about the other styles.
Yeah. The thing is, you always choose your own records, even if you're a kid. You know what I mean? You have tapes, and then I like this song. So I used to be like an artist. If I like a song, I play it 100 times a day. You know what I mean? It's like, I think all kids like this, most probably. But then, yeah, this the thing is, this sort of autism continued with me. It didn't stop. So that's why, like, I'll give you a good example. When I first got my first tapes, early first, what you call it, early foreign, whatever you want to call it, tapes. There was one of them, one with Fleetwood Mac, is Peter Green. I was, I think, 15 or something. I played it. Wow, me, what's this amazing music? I never heard any music like this before. I mean, because really, I never heard something similar. So, you know, it was like my first experience with something like this since I am, you know. And then I said, wow, this music is so good. I liked it. Then I went, next week, I had my money from my parents to, you know, for the week. So I used to take it and immediately spend it on tapes or whatever I found. So I went and I bought all the Fleetwood Mac, as much as I can buy with my money. Then I played, fuck me, what is this? It's completely different sound. I'm not dissing Fleetwood Mac, I like it, but I mean, back in the days when you're a kid, imagine these two different sounds. I'm giving this very obvious example because to me, I still think about it, how it was, wow, what is this? Is it the same band? You know what I mean? And it was like, oh fuck, I don't like this. And then you discover, and I was wondering what happened, and then you discover, you read more about the story. And this basically, from this very simple example, is how it develops to understand music. Then you read more and study more and listen to more and buy more and sell more. And so it becomes more complicated musically. You know what I mean? Yeah, but this Fleetwood Mac, I don't know what was it. I was traumatized when I heard it. I was so sad. I wanted to turn it back.
What were your first experiences as a DJ when you start to play the records you used to buy in the flea market?
Yeah. I mean, it's a classic thing. You know, you always invite your friends when you're 14 to your home, 15. Because I was in a family, as I said, like always our house was open, so we can bring my friends in. You know, I drink early, I start drinking early, like everybody, I guess, like 15 you start drinking, no? Now they say, I mean, everybody here, I think, started drinking 15, not like drinking heavily, but drink once a week with friends, no? Having vodka or cola or beer. And then I will be listening to music. But then, this is what happened. My first, if you want to say like DJ gig outside my bedroom with my friends, there was a friend of ours, his father had a hotel, and there was a sort of, what you call it, lobby. And then, because you're not allowed to go to bars or clubs when you're 16, 15, you know. And then he had this Tuesday open for us. So we used to go all like 16. I think everybody had this experience. There was one place where allow underage to go. And they used to go DJ there. Really? Yeah. On Tuesday nights. So, I mean, and then I continued. That's the thing.
And how was the crowd reacting to your selection?
You'll never remember this. When you're, I mean, it wasn't like really serious digging thing, but it was for us, yeah, I was playing what, I don't know, like Velvet Underground, all these kind of things that I liked, you know what I mean, like 60s rock, whatever, you know. I mean, you can't say it is part of my, I don't know how you want to say it, but it was just kids playing music basically in a lobby. Now everybody like to glorify themselves that they were great DJs when they were 15. And nobody was great DJ when you're 15. I mean, today I see people in their 50, 40, they're just playing crap records.
So when did it begin to be really serious? Like you created your own...
serious about music, always been. You're not aware of it.
I mean about promoting your nights and your music.
I was DJing when I started DJing this at this age. Then I started getting to play at some places. They invite me to play, and they get paid. You know, so I was getting paid when I was 16, but it wasn't regular. Then I started doing 5 nights a week when I was, 18 to 17. I do like places 4 or 5 nights a week. Then I did for almost 10 years. I did some shitty bars, like not shitty bars, like fancy whatever cocktail bars you wanna call them, and fancy clubs for upper middle class and things like this. But you're always they're not happy. I'm not happy with what I'm playing. I mean, it wasn't playing very bad commercial things because I didn't do the weekends, but I was playing compromising, you know what I mean? And then they gave me a fucking night on the club on a Monday night because my music was not good for the weekend, you know? They will have to play Monday night, you know what I mean? And they had like a happy hour all night, you know? So that, imagine how bad is this? The club owners, and this is like not only where I'm playing, this was the scene everywhere in Beirut. It was like all commercial pop or commercial electronic house, whatever. I'm not even house, I don't know what they call it. So, you know, they gave me this Monday and I was so fucking tired of this. It's like incredible. And then you go to the clubs, they play exactly the same songs every weekend. You know, and they said, fuck it, I'm not... And at that time I was doing... bringing all these jazz artists, and then I lost money, and they said, fucking hell, you know, I'm so tired of this, I want to start my own. This is like 11 years now.
So was it the Beirut Collective?
Yeah, Beirut Groove Collective. So I started my own night because I was not thinking I want to make money, because I was so tired of playing these fucking crappy places, playing on a Monday night. My music was only good for the night nobody goes out, you know. It is a fact, I'm telling you. So, the best thing they gave me, it was like a Thursday night, for example. So you will do all the rest of the nights, you will do the stupid fancy cocktail bars. I don't want to do this, and then I started my night in a house, Zico House is called. It's like sort of residential artist, but he's a friend of mine, we know him. And he has like a living room, double the size of this. And I said, oh, I want to do it. And I said, yeah, of course. Nobody ever done a night like this. I think we were the first to do sort of warehouse.
It's a house party.
It's a house, then we moved to warehouse. It is sort of a house. It is a house, but it is a party. So I did my first night there. And we did the flyers and everything. And I think there was a swine flu. You remember?
Which?
Swine flu, the pig, what you call swine flu.
Yeah.
And I did a cover, I did a poster, I remember now when I'm talking to you, I did a first poster, we did it, two poor pigs fucking each other. Look what happened. No, this is true. And you know, in Lebanon, you don't notice any religious, it's very cosmopolitan, Beirut especially, very sort of, very mixed. And it was also Ramadan. No, we don't notice Ramadan. So I was going on the places with this poster, two pigs fucking each other, and the swine flu happening, and the poster was banned from even my, it was not banned like by the police, but I mean, everybody, you go to the bar, they look at it, they take it out. I mean, not really. I'm not saying it's like it was that born, this poster. And then I said, oh fuck, so we had flyers, and because I was working, so we distributed. And then we had the first night, we had maybe, the lights, we brought some lights, was Chinese made lights, so it looked like a proper underground party, but it was like, because done cheaply. And then we had, I was DJing, there was only maybe 40 people. You were expecting to have a lot of people. I said, fuck, so let's do it again. Second time, it was more. Third time, there was like 400 people in this house. They had to open the garden. They had a back garden. We started bringing big sound. The whole building was shaking. We did like 10, 15 parties there, the club nights. And then he received from the court, I think, 10 court cases. Because it was in the residential area. Then we started looking for places. And this here where we moved into we discovered a lot of places that became later big clubs now, one of the biggest clubs. So we did factories, silver factory, we did some amusement centers that abandoned because, we did first beach parties up north because we were looking just a cheap place to keep everything cheap. And this basically, to be honest with you, like when you were playing, for example, Fetla Kuti back at the time and things like this, of course nobody ever heard Fetla Kuti in Beirut. And then now you go to Beirut, you will hear Fetla Kuti in any bar. You know what I mean? We helped sort of introducing a lot of things. Now even Ethiopian music, you can hear it in some bars. The word at this time, the most obscure thing you can listen to was like James Brown or something like this. Which is great, James Brown, but we were doing other stuff.
It's a big classic.
So for 10 years ago, someone like Fela Kuti 10 years ago was so obscure for the crowd there. So imagine a lot of work we did, so playing all these obscure records. And this what gives it, because I think the scene, people were really happy to experience a new sort of sound. Because club owners and bar owners or this, they don't care. Fuck, this record making them money, keep playing it. And people, they don't care. People, they're not educated. Who's educated, they will not go there. So when you try to push the boundaries, yes, of course, people, this is here when there's a good DJ, when you're talking about good DJ. I was pushing boundaries when I was 14. It's a lie. Nobody will push boundaries when he's 14. Don't believe them. They're all lie to you. Anybody tells you we pushed boundaries at 14. No, you push boundaries when you properly push boundaries. And I pushed boundaries properly. We changed things. Not at the age 14. You can say like when I was 20, 21, of course. But I had, you know what I mean? I had to struggle for it. But for me, this was the music I really wanted to play and I want to enjoy it. Otherwise, I would have just kept on being a stupid DJ in a corner of a fucking fancy cocktail bar. It's true. And then, you know what I mean? This is the thing. So, digging and understanding music, it helps you also to understand, because it's not always, if you want to be a DJ, in terms of such a DJ like my kind, where we're not like producers or we do hip hop music, or we just dig into old music or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, like you sort of rediscover some music or re-expose some other music. It is for me. I was just wanted to have interesting music that sounds good enough for me, and unique enough for me to play and and works on dance floor. This is the idea of my club night. It doesn't matter. I didn't care. I didn't want to play other people's records. I didn't want to play records that this will make people dance. I wanted to bring new records to play.
And was it many shops in the 70s, 80s, 90s in Beirut, in Lebanon in general?
Yeah, of course, many shops, many shops. I used to buy, at this times you used to buy for €0.50 the record. From the shops. Yeah, everybody was busy selling CDs.
So was it?
So if you have some records, you want to get rid of it. This is too much space.
And when did you start yours? The name
starting collecting? No, my record store, forget it.
The name is
Darsko. My record store, because we had a store in Bourj Hammoud. We had a store in Bourj Hammoud, this Armenian quartet, that has been abandoned. And they had no more space. I wanted to open, so it took me 2 years because I was doing it myself. Sort of back with your records. I have doubles or I don't want, or I bring now to sell things, but it's not open all the time. So I start mine maybe 4 years ago. I don't know how many. It's in my own. If I'm paying rent, selling records is a hard job. You cannot be full-time DJ and doing all these other things and be a full-time record store. It's very hard job. Not easy. People, they think selling records is easy. No, you have to. It's hard. Yeah, of course. It's music all struggles, but you cannot. You can just sell on a side, and it depends. But if you want to make living out of records, you have to do 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours a day. You know what I mean? So you can find interesting records in my store because it is coming from my collection or things I go. But I'm not gonna go, look for records just for my record store. I look for me first. You know what I mean? So that's why it clashes. I cannot be a dealer.
So you sell records you like?
I sell records if I like, if I don't want anymore. It's not like liking a record. You can like a record and then not like it after half an hour or after 5 minutes. Yes, I don't like it.
What is the meaning of Darsko?
Darsko, it is, I'm sorry to disappoint you, it's not the greatest record store, but I know. But Darsko, I tell you, it is, I use, because there is no PayPal in Lebanon.
No PayPal?
No PayPal.
Okay.
So I was using, and now someone who closed all the doors for him to buy, so or you have to travel to the source, or you have to buy from dealers. So I used to use my girlfriend's, Natalie, Discogs account, because related to, linked to her PayPal.
Okay.
To be able to pay with PayPal.
Sure.
And it was called Darsko, so I called it Darsko. Not very interesting story, huh? And it's the fact, they like always glorifying. I never heard it. What is this DJs? They're all Napoleon and up, You know what I mean? It is, what matters is the records you play. That's the thing. Yeah.
When did you start your radio show?
Radio show with NTS. It is a very interesting story, actually. This is really one of my favorite radio, to be honest with you. Now I'm doing Totally Wired, but NTS has been doing it for longer. NTS, when they first opened, I have a friend of mine when I used to come to London. I would like to give him a shout out, Neil Andrew. He's a hip-hop producer now doing electronic music. Then he used to invite me to do a slot on NTS. When they first opened, they were very small.
So it's a live show?
Live show, yeah. But it was not my show. I used to be here, so they call me do guest, like I'm doing here guesting. And then I did this kind of things every time I was there, said come, until Fergus, who was the manager programming manager, Fergus. He asked me to do a show, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I forgot, to do a regular show from Beirut. And to be honest with you, I really contemplate the idea, I like it, but I never realized how big is the station. It is, this station is, you will not imagine how big, it is massive. It's the biggest online radio station. They have hundreds of thousands of listeners per day, it's incredible. So when I started doing my show, I didn't take in consideration, because I didn't know that it is big, widespread. So I was playing even the records I liked, the more obscure. So there was no censorship. You know what I mean? And this is what I like about this radio, because they don't assume anything. And then the more you're expressing yourself in a way you want to do it, the more you know what I mean. So it is proper platform for DJs to do whatever they want. So one day I was playing all these records that I liked, and this is why I enjoyed it. And then when I knew, oh, this radio is awesome. And then a lot of people there really paying attention to the records I play, because I receive a lot of messages from people. At the beginning they never heard this kind of records. They bother to write you, say thank you for this, what is that, people you never know. And I think this is the importance of radio stations like this, where they give you the chance, to just express yourself the way, and this is what makes a difference. You know what I mean? And I think now all radio stations online, they're trying to be the same. I mean, not saying trying like NTS, but they are very open now, not like FM radio. So, this is a good thing for DJs like us and any artists, any producers that they are, because I wouldn't be on FM. Forget it, FM. No way. Never been on FM. I mean, I know a lot of people, they have radios on shows on FM. I never been bothered to be asked to do a radio on FM, even in my own country. You know what I mean? FM, they want, what they want.
So when you were in London to visit a radio show as a guest, or
no, I would be doing some gig, or coming to visit my girlfriend or friends, or coming with my girlfriend to with her family. So it's not like they won't fly you to do the thing. So
And do you used to go to the record shops or flea markets in London, or all the places you've been touring?
I mean, I don't want to diss any record stores. I like all record stores, but I'm not. Every time I go to the record store, I struggle to find things I find. I like to go to meet people, look at the records, things like this, but I don't think, I want to go to a record store. I like going to record store. I prefer going to, I don't know, like, how do you call it? What do you call it if it's not a record store? Like private collections, or you travel to the stores. I traveled for records. I traveled for records, but I didn't travel to London to buy records.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? I traveled to Egypt 10 years ago, 15 years ago to buy records. I traveled to Ethiopia to buy records. I traveled to everywhere like this kind of places to buy records. But I mean, if I was in London, I would go buy records from record stores. But travel to London to find records, it is maybe I never thought about it. I'm not saying it is not good. I don't know how it is to do it.
How did you meet with Pete to start the collaboration with BBA for
Pete,
the compilations?
Pete, I met him through Keb. I invited Keb to DJ at my night. And then, Keb, he hates all this music now. All African funk, all this music he doesn't like. Anything like this doesn't like. And then he was at my porch. And I think I came from Ethiopia. It was a year or something, more than a year maybe. I was coming from Ethiopia, maybe a year and a half or 2 years, I don't know.
When was it exactly?
I don't know, maybe 7 years ago, I don't know when was it. I have no idea. It took a while for the comp to come out. Then I was playing this record, I said, I don't like this music, but this music sounds really interesting, you should put it on a comp. And then he asked Pete, and Pete said, yeah, let's do it. And then we did the first one. The second one blocked so far, but I mean, and then at the same time, my friend J.G. Whitefield from the Poets of Rhythm, I mean, I invited him before, I don't know, first time maybe 7 years, I don't know, to come DJ in Lebanon, first time.
They were from Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, Munich. From the Poets, now they do Karl Hector and the Malkoons, Ambrio, all this. And it was weird that he was also very much into Ethiopian music, and he was doing the comps, what's called Beyond Addis, where like modern artists influenced by Ethiopian music. So he was compiling it. And then I was passing by Munich one time, and he said, you should come on tour with me. Then we toured together. We did I think we were the first two DJs ever to tour with strictly Ethiopian music. No, no, really. And he's famous among the diggers and stuff like this. And because of the poets, so when we first booked us, we got a lot of bookings, because most of these bookings, they were like funk and soul clubs. So they thought we were gonna be playing funk and soul records. And then because, I thought, oh, I'm not gonna bring any funk records with me, because, Jan, he's like, most probably has, but much, of course, he has much better funk and deep funk records than me. He was the first to revive this thing in the 90s when he went to. And then I said, oh, I'm not bothered. I think it will be okay. So I took only my Ethiopian records. And then when we went on tour, he didn't even bring any funk and soul records. So it was all Ethiopian and African, all these clubs when we toured. they were surprised with the sound. But the sound, it worked. And then we always toured again. We did, it worked, but it's not like worked for thousands of people, stadiums, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was this, you can feel how, and then the comp came, also my comp came, and we did another tour. And then you feel that how also things can change, when you expose people to different kind of music. And this here where you feel, it is a fun and good job to do it, like when you're DJing is a job and you enjoy it. You know what I mean? Because it's very different when people react to records they never really heard and they really enjoy it. It's something cracks in them. It's very funny, huh? Not like you used to do the dance thing, so it is all of a sudden like you let them out of the box.
Did you have some Ethiopian records before you went there?
Yeah, I had one by I think, and I changed it with JJ. I had a couple, 2, 3. I had, because I told you they were Ethiopian records pressed in Lebanon. If you see the 45s, many pressed in Lebanon, India, Lebanon, Kenya. I had the one on the, early Kaifa, the yellow one. I think it was by Tacho Casa, I think. I changed it with, traded with JJ. Yeah, I had fun. And then, that's the thing. That's why I traveled there, because where else you want to find these records?
So tell us more about your trip.
It's a long story. My guy, he wants to open. He has some work.
That's okay.
No, the thing is, look, this is craziest record digging. One of the craziest, but very interesting. I went to Ethiopia, to Addis Ababa. I'm not good at planning things ahead or this. And sometimes when you are like in your mind, you're always imagining things. And then I went online, you have all these addresses. I had addresses, like 10, 15 addresses, record stores with phone numbers and locations.
Was it like proper record stores or more like
no,
markets?
So I had this in my, and then I've traveled, and there's my friend Martin Armstrong. He's a journalist, a British journalist and photographer. If you see my comp, these photos he took. So he came with me because he wanted to cover the story for Vice. And he did few stories in Ethiopia, also about Ethiopia for Vice. So we went there, and I took my plane. I took it through Egypt with 24 hours stop in Cairo. They told me, you're crazy, when are you going to sleep? But it happens like this Egypt Air, they're still old school. When you have more than 8 hours, so they escale, they give you hotel and like they give you this. So they gave me hotel, 5-star hotel, 3 meals. I was like swimming, eating. Said, wow, starting great. I booked the hotel called Taitu. That's why the compilation called Taitu in Ethiopia. Taitu is, because you read all these things, it's a historic hotel. Was built by Emperor Menelik for his wife Taitu. It was the first hotel in Ethiopia. And Taitu, she was the commander of the army, and she was the founder of Addis Ababa. So Addis Ababa means new rose. So it's a great history about this hotel. Oh, and it's cheap. So I booked it, and it's in Piazza. Now, when I arrived there, it was burned the night before. You can read it. You can read the news in it.
The whole hotel?
The whole, yes, the whole hotel. You could smell the
smoke.
The smoke. And there was a club also was burned there, because I was happy, in Ethiopia, all this Alimayo, I met all these people, like they're still gigging weekly. So Mulatto has his own club and his hotel plays. Alimayo Eshete, I also met their DJ, and many, they're still gigging there. I met many. So it is still, and I was, wow, the club was built. I arrived, it was, what is this? And then I said, what happened? I said, oh, got burned. What do you mean got burned? Like, why? They said, yeah, it got burned yesterday, or I mean the day before. Where are we going to stay? We had a big fight with them. And then she said, oh, there's some back rooms still there. I said, okay, give me one room with a toilet. And then she said, yeah, okay, and the shower. I said, okay, they gave me a back room. I went, I opened the room. It had one window like this, like a prison. And I opened and fuck me, it stinks like piss. Like piss, really, like someone pissed all over the room, not like, I couldn't stay. And I was flying for such a long time, I was so tired, I said, fuck, I'll try to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I went, I said, what is this? He said, yeah, here, because it is all sanitary. So it smell, if you don't want it, if you want it without smell, have it without a toilet. I said, can I have a sink? Look, because I don't want to rush in the... He said, yeah, there's rooms with sink. I said, give me the one with the sink. It stinks again. Then I had to change the room. You know, had one room with shared sink, shared everything. And then when I was putting my stuff, she said, don't leave anything valuable in your room. You have to buy your own locker and come put it here in the locker. I said, oh, and it was really, and they went to see all these addresses. None of the addresses was there. Imagine, for a week. For a week, I'm walking around, and Martin, he was getting worried. He said, there is no story, man. What is the story? We couldn't find anything. And it was, I said, every day I go, look.
Do you have a guide there to
What guide?
show you?
I was a guide. And then we were in an area, it was like the proper ghetto area. So at night it changes, all is run by prostitutes, brothels, and gang. Police split the money with the pimps, and I think we were the only two non-Ethiopian in this. And even we discovered later that when we went to see Ali Mayo gigging in this Bole Road, that's where all diplomats and foreigners stays there, safe area. This is basically the airport road, which was asphalt. And I met some Ethiopians there. Said, where are you staying? In Piazza? They were fucking scared. Said, no, it's impossible. You can't stay there. They said, no, it's fine. But you know, the thing is, after 7 o'clock, it changes the whole dynamics of the area. And then even on the trottoir, what you call it, sidewalk, they put sheets like this, and then people, they go shag behind the sheets on the asphalt like this. So it is like proper. I mean, it was okay. But the thing is, you know, so we couldn't find. And they will walk, this address is nothing. And you're walking in Addis Ababa, I mean, the sun, the heat, you know, not like taking taxi and, you know what I mean? And I saw one guy, they have this kind of sellers where they sell like walking library or walking CDs. So they have like, they stack books like this or CDs and this. So I stopped and I said, do you know where I can find chocolate? He said, yeah, for 3 days kept on taking me around. Poor guy, we couldn't find. So you go walk for 2-3 hours, then you arrive to some blacksmith who has one broken record like this. You get frustrated. I mean, it was until when I was coming back one time, and then I heard some Yemeni music coming from Yemen. It was the beginning of the war of Yemen. So there were also Yemen and Ethiopia, they're borders. So there's neighbors like Belgium, France. So, but there was a lot of Yemenis also coming during this time. And then this guy, I said, oh, what is this music you're playing? Who is this? And he's telling me, I said, I'm speaking. He said, he was Yemeni. And I said, oh, you know, and I saw behind him as like records for Elvis and all this kind of classic story, I mean. And then I told him, I'm looking for Ethiopian records. Do you know where I can find? He said, yeah, of course. I said, take this number. I said, really? I said, yeah, let's call him. And he will ring me. I said, okay. I phoned the guy. He said, oh, do you have, I'm here at Taito Hotel, want some records? I said, yeah, of course. I'm coming in half an hour. I said, okay. Listen to the story. He didn't show up. I called him the next day, phoned him. He didn't show. Actually, there was another guy looking for records there called Albi from Austria. I'm not sure if you heard the Albi Dobmauer. And no, he was looking for records there. He couldn't find anything. I was the one who found the records and then connected him. He was in the hotel, so we were three. And and then I called him next day. He said, yeah, I come there at 3. He didn't show up. And then third day he showed up like 2-3 hours late, but he came with stacks of records and these like he was getting every day, bringing with me 100, 200 in the hotel.
Ethiopian,
listening.
Ethiopian music only.
Yeah, only.
LPs and
no, LPs they don't. They have a small LPs. LPs very hard
not
because the condition is incredible there because many things happened since this record's been in Ethiopia: famine, war, poverty, heat. You bring hundreds of records, you find 2 records that they're playable, So, but you will be able to. Can you find the source? One of the sources I found. So this was crazy story. So then he came, and then every day I'll sit 4 or 5 hours. He comes with stacks like this, sit in the hotel. Yeah, this is how I found my records there. But this was, pure luck. I was ready to go to Harar because in Harar you can find more. But in the end I found this. Next time I will go somewhere else. But it was crazy. You know what I mean? Imagine how fun it was. Nice experience.
All the selection from your compilation.
Of course.
From this trip.
Yeah, of course, one trip. But I stayed a month. Sure, one trip. Who goes dig for a month? They go with addresses. They stay a week, or they want to do different countries.
And did you have the chance to see some
live
performance?
Of course. I saw Mulatu. Mulatu, I saw him before, but I saw him in his club there. He had also some other band. I saw Alimeyo. I used to see him weekly. And then I saw a lot of artists. There was this club where they bring all these artists. I saw. You can see easily their artists. But the most interesting thing, when I was taking the small van, what you call it, you don't have it here. It's not a bus, it's sort of a mini bus, and this is to use it cheaper than the taxi.
Yeah, like in Brazil.
Yeah, like in Brazil, like everywhere, like in Lebanon. So this one, you only for locals. I used to take it because ask people if you know records, where am I gonna find records? So I was taking anything I can do, one time the police followed us. They wanted money because I was asking for records. Anyway, so it is a lot of adventures. I should write a book about it. So I was in this bus, and they were playing Bezunesh. Hirut Bekele. And I heard this, because there this music is still alive, it's not like dead. They listen, they know it, especially Telahun. When you get there, you think Mulatu is it's not the biggest for them. It's Telahun Gassese is the most important artist for them. It's the biggest number one. When you say Mulatu, tell you, the jazz guy. They like the singing. They like, So it's different for us who are not from there. Yeah, Mulatu. For them, no, it is complete. This also changed my idea. That's why my comp also came with this sort of work, because it's not. It's an ontology of how I perceive this music there. Oh, we're open to them. So, and I heard him playing and said, "Is this Hirut Bekele?" And then he said, yeah, of course, you like Hirut. And they start, when you see, they know you like their music, they start, communicating with you more. Then there was a guy next to me sitting, and he said, I saw her last week. I said, where did you see her? She's performing? I think she's not performing. He said, no, she's turned into religion. She stopped performing a long time. She came to the store where I work. I said, what do you work? He said, I do kitchen. I work in a kitchenware place. I said, what, you want to buy some kitchenware? He said, no, she came to rent. I said, what do you mean to rent? He said, yeah, maybe she has some dinner and she didn't have kitchenware, like plates or something like this. And then and he told me, she didn't have the money for the deposit, but we knew her, so we didn't take deposit. So I was like, wow. Such legend, it is like, must probably living in such a deep poverty or whatever, which is crazy, huh? Her record's going for far.
Did you hear before the French compilations?
Yeah, of course.
The series Ethiopian.
Of course, Falsato.
Falsato,
He did. No, I was introduced also a lot of it because of Falsato. I mentioned this, and when I said this, no, what Falsato did is different. That's why the thing I did, it was not, because when all these records came, Falsato, he puts everything out, right? I did more a personal thing, an ontology, my trip, how I perceived this, which is, I think, traveling there, it changed. Because if you want to do a compilation about a music that is not part of your culture, there's a lot of misconception about it, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I grasp it all, but I mean changed a lot of this misconception. Yes, of course, and the Falsato did a great job. They know him there, everybody they know him. Yeah. I mean, he put out all of this music and made it available for people, which is a good thing.
Did you plan to make other volumes of?
No, there's volume 2 already ready to go with J.G. Whitefield. I did it. Yeah, and but it's stuck now with, I don't know, Corona, destroy everything, but it's already ready to go with BBE. I'm not sure if there
is it the same kind of selection?
It's different.
Different.
They're different because we're two compilers on it. It's me and J.G. Whitefield, and and I'm doing also now this volume 2 is 2 years ago done everything with them. I don't know, it's stuck somewhere. But I'm doing now more, going back to Lebanese stuff I'm doing.
We saw the belly dance series.
This with them also. But before I went to Ethiopia. Yeah, this was the guy I told you, Ridley Scott, from the UK, the producer, Neil Andrew. 15 years ago, I still have all the emails. I tried to put a Lebanese compilation. Lebanese compilation with all the tracks. Nobody ever heard about this. Really, 15 years ago. We wrote to all of the labels that you can think of in Europe, or we could think of. Nobody wanted it. Nobody. It's crazy. Now, booming. I still have the emails, track listing, everything. Nobody was interested in it. So now I'm doing it. I'm doing also one Lebanese comp. It's gonna go out on I can't say what to wear, but off the camera. Maybe we go. He wants to work.
Dernier truc. What would you recommend to the new generation buying records?
New generation. I'm new generation. I mean,
not only Arabic or Ethiopian music.
I don't know what is. This question. You cannot. I think we shouldn't recommend anything. We should just let them decide. The thing is, if you are 16, 17, and then at your school they play you they call it Wazir here. They play you stupid music, pop and this and this. This is very bad. You know what I mean? This is here where you should recommend. Now, when you are 16, 17, or 19, already going to your taste is almost destroyed. I do say that in places where education is centralized, state education, the state should put more effort, not when you are in the suburbs or you have shitty education, when you are in the center, you have center, this is here where it comes to education. For me, DJ, I'm gonna recommend for young generation. They can listen to the music I play. This is, and this should be, I think, as good as I can do with my thing. But I recommend to change the whole system of music education at young age. This is the problem. Other this recommending for people listen to this, they're not gonna listen. They won't listen if they're not already in a different shape. They will listen, but I'm talking vast majority. We suffer. Music commercial. He knows his record store, right? No, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, how many young generation or older generation? Always the same. From the old generation, I'm sure that it's the same percentage of the younger generation that they listen to something different. The majority, they won't listen to the crap radio you listen to. No?
Exactly. And
it's tough job. Radios, commercialism of music, in that sense, for radios. Radio presenters today, they're not into music. They have to look good, to speak good, and they play whatever they give them to play. This is problem. This whole mentality should change. Because there's a lot of great music, you know what I mean? They have to close.
If tomorrow you will have to sell your collection, would you do it?
No. I mean, I don't. I sold a couple of records now. I mean, I sold one record because I'm here and you know things like this. But selling my collection, no, you can sell and buy more. But I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I sell, maybe I don't sell. I don't know. I never thought about this. I mean,
in which records would you keep at the end?
There's always changes. This one, you know what I mean. So that's why I'm very bad at selling my records. Because I sell this every time you sell something and then you regret stuff. Okay. So yeah, it's hard. I cannot tell you, oh, this is the best collection. It's not the best collection in the world. Because always, especially when there's a DJ tells you he has the best collection in the world, that means he stopped collecting records. You know what I mean? If you have the best collection in the whole world, then why bother collecting more? I always find, there's a lot of holes to fill. I mean, only holes to fill, you know what I mean? So if I didn't even think about selling it, you understand? So yeah, I want to fill more. But I don't know, maybe a lot of DJs, they will be annoyed with it.
Thanks, Ernesto. Thanks a lot for the interview.